This morning, I would like to start the session by sharing a few lessons from the most inspiring woman in my life, my mother. My mother taught me two principles. First, focus on what you truly want to achieve and trust the process. And not just the destination, but also the journey itself. Second, she always say this, stay humble, and stay humble. That's what she always say. She would say this. This is a phrase from Indonesia, but I'm trying to translate it to English. Be like a rice, the fuller it grows, the lower it bends. This lesson shaped how I see the world and how I approach leadership. Over the years, I have met countless women whose actions reflects the same values. In every sectors and community across Indonesia and the region. That is why it is so important to recognize and understand the impacts, the woman impacts to the world. And within this room, I'm very proud to share the stage with so many inspiring women. Ibu Widiyanti Putri Wardhana, the captain of the tourism sectors in Indonesia. Tourism is not only about destination, but also about job creations. It's about communities, and particularly local economies. And under her leadership, we have seen the impact that continues to grow. We are also joined by Ibu Retno Marsudi, the only woman who has ever served as a Minister of Foreign Affairs in Indonesia's history. And become a role model to many women, especially in diplomacy. We have Ibu Rahayu Saraswati Djojohadikusumo, who transforms the issue within the communities into a solution through policies. We are also honored to have Ibu Yenny Wahid, who has consistently worked to strengthen social cohesion, tolerance, and leaderships in the community. Because if we want economic growth, peace is a non-negotiable price. And from the business side, we have also Ibu Sari Chairunnisa. She represents a new generation of corporate leaderships and combines innovation and research to drive competitiveness in the private sectors, especially halal beauty industry. Each of the women leaders who stand here with us brings a different perspective. Of course, I see many more that I am not able to mention one by one. But we have so many inspiring women leaders in this room. I'm sorry, I'm not forgetting the men, but because it's a... Again, each of the women will bring us a different perspective. But together, we show something very important. That leadership today is collaborative, multidimensional, and deeply connected to the real impact. That's why today I would like to share the Indonesian Business Council is introducing the Women Center of Growth and inviting you to all to collaborate. What we hope that it starts in Indonesia, but does not mean stops here. Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and other ASEAN countries, and also even beyond, between ASEAN and its partners. This is a long-term initiative, and we see it as a starting point rather than a finished program. The intention is to build collaboration with partners who share the same commitment to strengthening women's role in Indonesia, ASEAN, and all the economic growth. The center is envisioned to work closely with universities and focus on women of productive age, particularly those who haven't started a business. It will provide training in entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and practical skills, helping participants turn ideas into real businesses. Equally important, the center will also connect participants with mentors, entrepreneurs, and MSME leaders to share knowledge and guidance. It will remove barriers to business creation, supporting women in starting their own ventures and strengthening local economies. And through this initiative, we hope it will be a driver of inclusive and competitive growth. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I will not keep you any longer because the most important insight today will come from the woman on this stage that we will soon you see. But let me leave you with this. Indonesia's growth depends on how much women contribute to full economic power in the workplace, in business, and in government, and even in the family. So together, let us build on an inclusive economy, one that recognizes women's contribution, remove barriers, and accelerate growth. Enjoy the discussion, and thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Bapak Arsyad Rashid, for setting a clear direction on strengthening the role of women in our economic future. Ladies and gentlemen, in the introduction of the Indonesian Business Council has introduced the initial concept of the Women Center for Growth as a long-term and collaborative initiative to strengthen women's role in Indonesia economic growth. And this perspective is strongly reflected in the tourism sector, where women play a critical role in driving inclusive and community-based growth. And it's therefore a great honor to invite the Minister of Tourism of the Republic of Indonesia to deliver her special keynote address, Her Excellency Widiyanti Putri Wardhana. The stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, greetings of virtue. To the Honorable former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Ibu Retno Marsudi, activist and member of People's Representatives Council of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Rahayu Saraswati Djojohadikusumo, Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Indonesia Business Council, Bapak Arsyad Rashid, Founder and Director of the Wahid Foundation, Ibu Yenny Wahid, Deputy CEO at Paragon Corp, Ibu Sari Chairunnisa, morning, and CEO of Indonesia Business Council, Bapak Sofyan Jalil, and former Minister of Export Promotion, International Trade and Economic Development of Canada, Ms. Mary. Very good morning. Welcome to Indonesia. Distinguished organizers, panelists, and respected participants, it is a privilege for me to participate in the Indonesia Economic Summit 2026. I thank the Indonesia Business Council for convening this important forum, bringing us together to reflect on pathways towards resilient growth and shared prosperity. As Indonesia strengthens its position in increasingly complex global economy, the foundations of competitiveness must continue to evolve. Economic resilience today is increasingly determined by the quality and inclusivity of people's participation in the economy. In this context, advancing women's participation is a strategic economic imperative. Today, women account for approximately 34% of total employment in Indonesia, compared to 66% for men across formal and formal sector, including self-employment. This aggregate figure conceals important sectoral dynamics. In tourism, women's participation is significantly higher than the national average. In 2024, women accounted for 54% in total tourism employment, with the participation increasing by approximately 23% since 2020. And I'm proud that this progress is also reflected at the Ministry of Tourism. The majority of senior leadership positions are led by women. This reflects how women contribute across the full tourism value chain, from frontline services to national policy and strategic leadership. Women's contribution to tourism is not only significant, but distinctive. In 2024, women accounted for approximately 58% of informal tourist activities, compared to 44% in formal tourism employment. This reflects the deeply community-embedded nature of women's economic participation. Women are often the anchors of micro-enterprises, cultural production, and destination-level services, roles that do not simply support tourism, but actively shape the authenticity and the quality of visitors' experiences. The impact extends beyond income. Women's participation strengthens cultural continuity, reinforces social cohesion, and builds resilient local communities. One example is Kampung Batik Giriloyo in Yogyakarta. Giriloyo did not begin as a tourism destination. It began with women producing batik individually in their homes. Over time, it evolves into batik-based tourism village, offering hands-on experiences, demonstrations, and learning programs that connects visitors directly with heritage and the local community. Today, around 640 women artisans are actively engaged, not only as producers, but also as guides, educators, and custodians of cultural knowledge. The village now attracts approximately 40,000 visitors and generates an estimated 2 billion rupiah in economic value annually. Giriloyo reminds us that inclusive growth achieved by opening pathways for women to transform skills, heritage, and community into sustainable economic value where they live and work. Despite meaningful progress, these remain strong potential to expand women's participation and deepen its economic impact. To understand how this can be done, it is useful to look at Nepal. Nepal mountainous terrain has made it globally renowned for adventure tourism. For decades, however, This sector remained largely inaccessible for women. Adventure tourism was physically demanding and dominated by men. This began to change when a local organization empowering women of Nepal asked transformative questions. What if women were trained not merely to participate, but to lead? The organization began providing professional trekking guide training for women. To ensure real market access, it established Three Sisters Adventure Trekking as a commercial platform. Women could enter as trainees and transition into full-time guides, working directly with international travelers. The impact extended beyond income generation. Women became guides of Himalayan trails, leaders of trekking groups, and role models within their communities. Tourism served as a pathway to economic independence, confidence, and long-term resilience. Nepal's experience highlights three clear lessons. First, empowerment. When skills align with real market demand. Second, market access is what converts training into impact. And third, institutional continuity is essential for sustainability. Indonesia has also taken deliberate and concrete steps to create an enabling environment for women's economic participation. First, at the policy level, gender mainstreaming has been embedded in the National Medium-Term Development Plan, where gender equality is a core element of national priority, or Astacita number 4 on human capital development. This strong policy foundation acts as a clear call to action for everyone involved in national development. It signals a shift where gender equality is no longer just a women's issue, but a mandatory strategy for that influences every sector. Ministries are now required to put this framework into practice, moving beyond simple representation toward making budget decisions and policy that ensures development is both inclusive and effective for all. At the sectoral level, the Ministry of Tourism is actively addressing the structural barriers that continue to constrain women's participation in tourism businesses, including limited access to formal markets and financing constraints. We organize business forums that directly connects tourism enterprises with distributors, modern retail markets, and large corporations. In 2025 alone, these forums facilitated business matching for 238 tourism enterprises, providing them access to formal markets. Access to financing has also been expanded through pitching forums that brings entrepreneurs face-to-face with wide range of capital providers, from banks to fintech platforms to venture capital firms. Over the past year, 317 tourism enterprises have gained exposure to potential sources of financing through these mechanisms. While these initiatives are not gender exclusive, the way they are implemented and promoted ensures that women have equitable access to opportunities and benefits they provide. This integrated approach enables businesses to formalize, expand their market access, and scale up sustainably. Distinguished guests, these experiences we have discussed today demonstrate that women's economic participation delivers tangible results. For Indonesia, the task ahead is to move beyond participation alone and focus on the quality of participation. Government must continue to translate policy commitments into scalable programs, aligning regulations, incentives, and public financing to remove structural barriers. The private sector plays a decisive role by opening supply chains, procurement opportunities, and investment pathways for women-led enterprises. Development partners can accelerate impact by supporting skills development, digital transformation, and access to finance. By working together, we can ensure that women are positioned as drivers of growth, leaders within strategic sectors, and contributors to Indonesia's long-term economic growth and economic strength. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that inspiring keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to our panel discussion, which will take place over breakfast. This conversation will deepen our exploration of how women are shaping the future of Indonesia's economy. Titled, Her Impact, Our Growth, Women Building Indonesia's Future. Please feel free to enjoy the breakfast served in front of you as we commence the panel discussion. And to start this morning's dialogue, it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers, and we would like to invite to proceed to the stage Ibu Retno Marsudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, 2014 to 2024. And next we have Ibu Rahayu Saraswati Djojohadikusumo, activist and member of the People's Representative Council of the Republic of Indonesia. And next we have Ibu Yenny Wahid, founder and director of the Wahid Foundation. Last but not least, Dr. Sari Chairunnisa, Deputy CEO and Chief Research and Development Officer of Paragon Corp. And to guide this through this panel, discussion will be led by honored moderator. I would like to invite Executive Board of the Habibie Center, Ibu Nadia Habibie. Please proceed to the stage. Ibu Nadia Habibie, the floor is yours.
Test. Good morning, everyone. Rise and shine. I am Nadia Habibie, and it is an honor for me to be moderating this esteemed panel. Our session today is titled, Her Impact, Our Growth, Women Building Indonesia's Future. I want to start by sharing why this topic matters to me personally. I work across the Habibie Center and the Habibie Ainun Foundation, where two institutions are focused on long-term national resilience, inclusivity, and also democratic values. I'm also a young working mother. In both institutions, the majority of our workforce are women. We are capable, we are committed, and influential in the work we do every day. We are not just participating, we are shaping outcomes. And that made me pause. Am I working in an echo chamber? And in this room, are we in an echo chamber? Because beyond spaces like ours, our reality is a much more complex one. As mentioned by Minister of Tourism, women's labor force participation in Indonesia sits in the low 50% range, which is not low, but it's not where we want to be, because many resilient high-income countries tend to be in the 60 to 75 percent female labor force participation. And why is this? Because they're supported by systems, by care infrastructure, formal employment pathways, access to capital, and decision-making power. But today's conversation is not just about participation. It's also about whether our systems are designed to help women grow, lead, and shape the future. And it is also about how women in positions of influence actively bring more women with them. Now, allow us to introduce our panelists again. We have Ibu Retno Marsudi, the Special Envoy of the UN Secretary of General Water. Ibu Sara, activist and member of the People's Representative Council of Indonesia. Ibu Yenny Wahid, the founder and director of the Wahid Foundation, and Dr. Sari Chairunnisa, Deputy CEO and Chief R&D Officer of Paragon Corp. Thank you for being with us this morning and for the leadership you continue to provide today. My first question to Ibu Retno: if Indonesia were serious about reaching 60 to 75% female labor force participation, what system would it need to change first, and why?
Right, thank you very much. Can I stay? Right, okay, I have 2 minutes, is it? 4 minutes, all right. Okay, first of all, enjoy your breakfast. I try to respond by presenting you a data from the global perspective. Recently, last year, 2025, the WEF launched or issued another, the Gender Gap Index 2025. And the index benchmarks the current state and evolution of gender parity across 4 key dimensions. Number 1 is educational attainment. Second, health and survival. Third, economic participation. And fourth is political empowerment. So now look at the data that we got from that index. For education, the gap is almost close because the parity reached 95.1%. For health, the parity is higher, 96.2%. However, when it comes to economic participation and political empowerment, we see that the gap remains very wide because the parity only 61% for economic participation, and for political empowerment, and even less, only 22%, means that the gap is wide, very wide. The Indonesian case, the Indonesian index, more or less the same to what the global index showed us. So, why I presented this index to you, ladies and gentlemen? Because the data shows a pattern that education and health alone does not guarantee leadership parity. I want to underline this. I mean, participation is of course good and a must, but leadership is better. Because when you talk about leadership, you have power to shape the policy, you have influence to open the door for other women, etc., etc. So economic power and political voice are where gaps remains largest. And these are the areas most closely tied to women becoming decision makers, not just participation. Again, participation is very good, but please also give us opportunity to lead. Because why it happens? Once a woman pass the education, then they are always entering the crossroad. Can I work? Can I combine work with my family? So women has to pass so many crossroads in her life. So, what can we do? Number 1, to start with us, to start with the family, to start with the community. Change the mindset. Give equal opportunity for women, not only to participate, but also to lead. Second, targeted policy action. Labor policies, political reform, and institutional reform. Again, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, participation is very important, but we need, if we want to see a better world, a better economy, and it applies also to private sector. Give women equal opportunity to lead, because I'm sure when women lead, everything will be much better. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Ibu Retno. I totally agree that women are much better when they lead. And now we are on to the next question. Ibu Sarah, from your perspective, what is the most critical barrier today that prevents women from going into the workforce consistently?
Good morning. Oh, good. Okay. Hello, all of you overachievers. Okay, congratulations. Because by being here, panelists, no problem. 7 a.m., let's go. But that you are here just to listen to other people talk at 7 a.m., salute. Okay? So thank you so much for the chance. I'll go immediately because we have such a limited amount of time. And Bu Retno has done an amazing job to lay out the issues and the problems. So I will try to shed light from the perspective of the millennials and the Gen Zs. When we're talking about the workforce, when we're talking about the demographic dividend that we have here in Indonesia, because that's what we're proud of, right? The bonus demography. But there is an underlying tone, which is that the Gen Zs especially are very, very well known to have high turnover. Okay, they'll come in, stay for 1 month and say, this is not for me. Right, but now the focus, I will try to focus, which is number one, on the women, right? And we all know that the challenge, there's three main challenges to women being in the workforce, and and also women leadership. It's culture, economy, and system. I will focus on simply one, which is culture, because when you deal with culture, the economy and the system will come along. And the three things that I want to focus on culture is number one, the prejudice of the system itself, the prejudice even by women. And what I mean by the prejudice is because, for example, when we were trying to, as Arshad said, trying to translate the ideology into policies, for example, the maternity leave, that was a huge debate. Why? Because if we wanted to extend the maternity leave, the private sector or the employers, everybody's questioning whether that's going to create further prejudice towards women, which is why many of us were pushing for paternity leave. Because in countries where there is gender equity, paternity leave is also just as important. Because what's happening now is that employers, and as an employer, I understand where many of my colleagues come from, where they question, well, if we hire young women, then is there going to be a chance that they're going to stop working when they get married and when they have children? And that is happening in my company in West Nusa Tenggara, where as soon as they get married, they resign. Right? And it's not even that we're not supporting, it's just that's the mindset and the culture of the community there. And so the prejudice also becomes, oh, if women get hired and then there's going to be, oh, we're going to lose a worker or a few when they're actually on maternity leave. So it's important that we push for paternity leave. I fully believe that, because we need men to understand Indonesia is becoming a fatherless society. Because sorry, men, you are fine with working morning till evening, no pressure. But when women are working from morning till evening, it becomes unnatural. Because all of a sudden, what's happening to your kids? How are you already out of the house? Didn't you bring your kids to school yet? There's all of those questions. That's prejudice. Number two, we're not seen as an integral part of the development of the economy. We're in 49% in Indonesia at least. And yet, ... You can fill in the blanks because this is preaching to the choir here, or to the converted, I would think. But the number three is the most important, because I have seen this over and over again, and I might be, again, I'm known to be saying the most unpopular views, and which is why I got in trouble in August. I might get in trouble here again, but I will paraphrase what Margaret Thatcher says, and it's that woe is she who does not have any enemies, because it means that she stands for nothing. So the third thing I will say is the patriarchal view of mothers. I will let that sink in. The patriarchal view of mothers. So many of my friends who want to take their PhD or want to make their own startup, it's their mothers who say, who's going to want to marry you if you're too smart? Because, sorry, this is what the mothers say, and I heard this directly from a friend of mine, who said, because which men want to marry someone smarter than them? Okay, please, men, if you want to help us, make sure that your sons are educated properly to accept us the way we are, and that smarter women mean smarter children. And we are building the next generation. So I'll stay.
Thank you very much, Ibu Sara. Thank you. So Ibu Sara was just discussing a little bit about participation shaped by culture, but also then leading to systems, and maybe more particularly care systems, maternity leave, but also paternity leave. Now, but as mentioned before, and also mentioned by Ibu Retno, participation alone is only the first step. If women enter the economy but remain concentrated in informal or low productivity roles, influence does not follow. So this leads us to a deeper question. Where do the key bottlenecks and structural barriers lie? I would love to ask Ibu Yenny, at what point in the economic value chain do most women get stuck? And what prevents them from moving into higher productivity, more formal, or leadership roles? The floor is yours.
Okay. Kudos to my two fellow speakers. I think what they said is just wonderful and shed light on so many issues, structural issues that are faced by women. Right? But one concrete thing that we can do to help the plight of women, especially for this forum, if I can suggest, just like Sarah, I'm also prone to make controversial remarks, but everyone is entitled to make controversial remarks during breakfast, you know? This is our time to be controversial. After all, you're taking us away from our families. But one way, just one small way to break down the barrier when it comes to talking about the women's issues is to move this kind of issue to the main hours, not during breakfast. Because after all, women really do create a big economic impact. I mean, 70 to 80% of consumer purchases are actually made by women. So we do make the world go round with our spending. So that, I think that warrants a bigger attention from decision makers. But joking aside, Pak Arshad, actually, but you know, my two fellow speakers talk about the structural issues, the structural barriers that we face as women. So what women need is actually agency. The abilities to shape the decisions that affect our lives and the communities. That's what we need more. And there are three critical elements that we need to create the shift, to create a better receptivity when it comes to including women in decision-making tables. The first one is literacy about power. Women need to understand how decisions are made, who made the decisions, and how to enter the room and sit on the table. Yeah. Women need to learn this. And the second, training needs to go beyond just skill training, but also trainings on moral conviction, courage to negotiate, the courage to take space, the courage to be controversial, to be different, to be seen as someone who's pushing the agendas, not just receiving the agendas of others. So women need to learn these languages. And to do that, we need to provide them with the structural security. We need to make sure that they have the job protection, that they have the support, the childcare support. Sarah said, you know, how we are always torn between leaving our kids behind or at home or coming to events like this or coming to work. So you need to make sure that women are given the options and given the facilities to achieve their optimal potentials. And to do that, you need to create the ecosystem, not just pushing them to work harder, to always making the decisions about this dilemma. So we need to come together to create that kind of ecosystem. And that's how we can help women to move beyond just participants to actually a person of influence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Yenny. I would just like to check with the committee here. Do we have more time? I'd like to ask. Yes, we have more time because it's a shame we don't get these real conversations every day. So I'm particularly enjoying this. It's not controversial, it's real conversations. But of course, you know, mindful of the time, perhaps we shall move to the next question. So, Ibu Dr. Sari, from the business perspective, where do you see the biggest drop-off for women?
Okay, from the business or the private sector perspective, so this is based on our experience. We've been this 40 years, and we also have the CSR activity. I think the drop-off number one is, you know, change the woman into the informal sector, into the more skilled. Like this morning, we discussed about like affiliator. I think like now the technology, the business landscape, you know, we will have more skilled work for women with a more flexible hours and with a more flexible place. So we discussed about affiliator, and we also have some project in Purwokerto with Bang Andi Noya, because the other problem, like you said, mother. So when a family have a special needs children, it's not only, the issue is not only the mother who will take care of them, but the husband will leave, right? That's the statistic, and that's what we see in the field. So we are trying to give them training to become live streamer, because they can do it at home, they can do it for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and then as long as they have cell phone, as long as they have signal, as long as they understand the algorithm or the regulation of the TikTok or Shopee, that's what we do the training. And then the third one in Paragon, so we try to have to train our like the beauty advisor, because when you become the beauty advisor in the counter, and then you know they can only work in a specific age. So before, but we take responsibility. So before they're like pension age at 40 years. So we train them to become a makeup artist, so they can have like a more flexible hour, more flexible workplace also. They can, we train them to become their own entrepreneur, because they have the consumer database, of course with consent, and then they can sell hijab, or they can sell, you know, their own embroidery and else. Or we have several success story when they have their own cosmetic store and hire another beauty advisor. So like Bu Retno say, it's important for women to open the doors to others, because you know sometimes we forget that we can be here because someone opened the door. We come to the lift, going up, but we have to go down and then open the doors to others. So informal to more skilled workers. So like I'm in charge for the R&D team. 80% of the scientists is also women. So they become more skilled, you know, not only in the production line. so they can have like a more proper working hour. And then the second is, I think, how from women to, not only to participate, not only to work, but also lead, because they will have, they will improve the policy, and then they will open the doors to many young women, young generation, and then so I think I have a story that to share why it's important for women not only to participate but also to lead or to participate in a more strategic meeting. So in December, Bu Retno and I went to the East Nusa Tenggara, where the water is scarce, right? They have to walk for 6 hours, bring like 10 kg water, and who will be in charge for that? Woman, because the men will go to work. Even we met a teacher that 2 days after she gave birth, it's still her responsibility to go down to take the water. So I think, yeah, like Basara says, like structural and also cultural, women should not be the one that take the water. She should be in the meeting, right?
Yeah.
With the ketua adat. The ketua adat is all a man that never take water. Took 6 hours, right? So I think that's what we need to have awareness and to champion this movement in each of our sector. And then the third one, we also see the fall off is the financial literacy. So right now we have a movement still internally because it's still a pilot where all the employee will have the financial class with the financial planner, because we saw many cases that, there is like online loan, the one that also have the loan is not them, but they will be in charge for paying it. So that's three fall off that we see in the private sector and some of the movement that we make. So hope you can have the lesson learned.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sari. I know we're very mindful of time, so I apologize. I think we have to skip to the last two questions. Focusing more on leadership now to Ibu Retno. At the national and global level, what needs to shift for women to move from being economic participants to becoming decision makers in leadership? And to Ibu Sara, how can women in positions of influence actively bring more women with them? The floor is yours.
Sarah, you want to start first? Okay, all right. So, but I want to pick up one of her sentence about the responsibility in the family. So I tried to put it in the nice and diplomatic way because I'm a diplomat. So I put it in a very nice language, a shared responsibility in the family. When you talk about caring, when you talk about children, when you talk about education, you shouldn't be think that it is mother's business. It is our business. So again, I put it a shared responsibility in the family because family is a teamwork. If you want to win, then you have to have a strong teamwork in the family. Otherwise, you will lose. That's number one. Number two, I just returned from Doha with Dr. Sari. I attended Jadal talks. Jadal means discussion. In Al Mujadilah. Al Mujadilah is Center and Mosque for Women that is under the Qatar Foundation. And the discussion is about women, but not only about participation, but also about leadership. Because we say that numbers may improve, but outcomes don't change if we don't increase the numbers of women at the leadership level. So my message to all private sector who are sitting here, bring this issue in your board meeting, in your boardroom, and discuss about it. My last intervention in Qatar, of course we discuss about leadership, but what we want when we are there are three things that are very important for us to remind. It doesn't apply only for women, but also for men. Integrity, values and principle, and purpose. Because these three will show you how the quality of your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll
Ibu
go
Sarah?
straight to
Yes.
the question. It's as simple as ladies, especially for us in leadership position and influential position, show up, stand up, and be genuine. Be who you're meant to be. And I know that's very niche and very cliche, but ironically, when I brought my daughter to parliament, I was slammed not by the men, but by the women. I brought her not for people, but actually it was for her. I didn't even realize it was going to go viral and people were going to be commenting on it. It was something that I was already doing with my son. She's my youngest. But I realized that it stemmed the comments, the negative comments from the women, it stemmed from envy, from jealousy, because I was able to do what they could not. So all of us wish we can take our kids to work, and the effect that that has. So if all of us here in the private sector, if we can just be a little bit more compassionate about having our employees bring their kids to work. Because what happens then, my sons will never question that whether a woman can or cannot. Because they have seen their mother lead meetings in front of thousands, in front of other men. And they will always know that a woman can because their mother can. And I will also say visual reference is key. And I'm so proud to say, and I'm so blessed to say that we have started the Saraswati Fellowship. We just finished our first batch of 30 women leaders because I have seen the effect of young women and men in the countryside seeing me as the chair of a youth wing, a woman leading not a woman wing, but a youth wing. And they then in turn say, okay, we can have more women in leadership positions. So visual reference is key, and I'm so glad that Retno has agreed to be a super mentor for Saraswati Fellowship, because Bushinta is a super mentor, Tamara is a super mentor, she's a Forbes 30 under 30. So of all ages, we are showing through visual reference that women can, and hopefully the 30 women selected from hundreds of applicants. And if you are, sorry, this is a bit of a pitch, but we're talking about practical, right? Practical approach, like the center that Pa Arshad is mentioning. Anyone want to work together with us to ensure that there are more visually visible women leaders? This is what we need, and we need it done, because when women rise, nations rise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Sarah. So visual reference, show up, stand up, and be genuine. Now, as we close, I want to return to the title of today's session, Her Impact, Our Growth, Women Building Indonesia's Future. Women's impact is already real. We participate, we contribute, we work across sectors, communities, and also institutions. But impact becomes growth only when systems and culture allow us to stay, progress, and influence. And ultimately, influence matters for what it enables beyond the individual. How can women in position of influence actively bring women with them? For women to not just participate in Indonesia's future, but for them to build it, for us to build it. Thank you to the panelists for today for your amazing insights and also advice. And thank you. See you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to our esteemed speakers and moderator. We kindly ask you to remain on stage for a token of appreciation. Please remain on stage, ladies, from the Indonesian Business Council, and allow me to also invite Her Excellency Widiyanti Putri Wardhana to come on the stage. And we would like to invite Bapak Arsyad Rashid, Chair of the Board of Trustees of the IBC, to present the token of appreciation. Please give the token of appreciation to our speakers and moderator. Please remain on stage. In addition to the plaque, Paragon Corp. Okay. Let's take a picture together first. 1, 2, 3. One more time, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and please remain on stage. In addition to the plaque, Paragon Corp would like to present specially curated gifts to our distinguished speakers and moderator, and we would like to invite Ibu Astri Wahyuni to present the goodie bags from our sponsors, Paragon Corp. Please give the goodie bags to the speakers and the moderator. Thank you. Now, before we take a group photo to commemorate this prestigious moment, we would like to also kindly invite Bapak Sofyan Jalil and Ibu Diana Permana to join us on the stage. Okay, everyone is ready? Now let us commemorate this moment with a group photo and look at the camera in 3, 2, 1. Once again, with smile in 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a round of applause to our speakers and moderator. And you may return to your seats. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our IES Executive Breakfast 2026. Our sincere thanks to our panelists, moderator, and Paragon Corp for their valued support. And thank you for your valuable contributions this morning. And we will reconvene at 10 a.m. for IES in Action, Investing in People, Financing Indonesia Global Workforce Development. And the session commences with a welcome note from Bapak Prayoga Wiradisuria, the Director of Policy and Programs of the Indonesian Business Council, and followed by a keynote address from Ibu Christina Aryani, Vice Minister of Indonesian Migrant Workers Protection. Our panel will feature policymakers, industry stakeholders, and representatives of destination countries from the Coordinating Ministry for Community Empowerment, Paragon Corp, the Embassy of Japan, and Pinawan Group, and moderated by Marlisa Supeno. And enjoy the break. I'm Rachel Solisa, and we look forward to seeing you back here at 9:50 a.m. And thank you. Let's give a round of applause for us today. Thank you.